everyone. Welcome to Charlotte Mason Coast to Coast, where we share practical tips on homeschooling the Charlotte Mason way. And I'm Amy Snell, the East Coast girl, and I'm here with Celeste Cruz from California. Hi, Celeste. It's good to see you again.
Yes, we are glad that you have joined us as we consider the duties we have as Charlotte Mason educators and the delights that are in store for us as we embrace this philosophy of education with a thinking love.
And so when we're recording today, it's September and everyone is thinking about back to school. And we're both a few weeks in, aren't we? Where are you at in your term?
We just finished week 5.
Same for us. We're going to be taking a break week here. And so I thought it would be great today to share, we've been doing this now. We both have children in Form 3. So what are our best tips? What would you recommend for someone who's going to start a new term, whether it's at the beginning of the year in September or a new term that comes around? We tried to think it through and boil it down to, our 3 best tips. So you start us out, Celeste. What's one?
So tip 1 is spend time in reflection. I know that when I am really finishing up a term, I'm really eager to move on to new books, fresh routines, get going on planning for the next year. It is really hard for me to stop and look back on how the year went. I kind of want to just leave the past in the past and, blaze on forward. But I have found it so helpful to stop and take some time to think about each child, each subject, what worked well, what didn't, where I want to focus my energies for the next year or term before I get started on the planning process.
I realized I so often, the weeks can blur together. So I in my mother's logbook, I have, the weekly lesson plans. And so then I just have kept a page where and you can see it's just kind of messy notes. It's nothing like, nobody's going to publish it into a book, but when I stop and reflect, even at the end of a week, I have felt like then when we pick up on Monday, that there is more momentum and we can kind of nip any problems right away in the bud. And so it just really takes a few minutes.
Yeah, and especially, I definitely think it's possible, even if you don't do this before the term begins, the week-to-week thing is so helpful to me, especially for the first few weeks when, as you go through your new routine, you're noticing all of these little things that you really need to tweak. I always try to remind myself that I'm holding my plans loosely and that I need to have a place to store that information as it comes up instead of sort of letting it, noticing it and then letting it sort of just flow right past me so that I can actually make change based on what I see. So I also have been, actually based on your discussion at the retreat with the mother's logbooks, I have been keeping it in my pre-reading notebook and just having it open on my counter. And as things come up, jotting it down, and at the end of the week sort of processing that, thinking through what I need to change for the next week. And after a few weeks of that, usually we're in a groove. And so I only need to do that for like 2 to 3 weeks and until things get really smoothed over. But it's so nice to have that built into the schedule.
Yes, and then after the retreat, I started to implement more formally having that weekly meeting with the kids. So including them in the reflection was so helpful. And they could share things that they were struggling with, what they thought was going well. And really they had good insights into our schedule and things that they felt like didn't make sense or wanted more help with. And my daughter said doing French on her own she didn't look forward to it each day. And I know I've been wanting to work on my French, and so I just rearranged the schedule. So it's something so simple like that, and we've been having a lot of fun together during her French time. So that's tip 1. Now for our tip 2, this is something that is definitely one of our delights. For some people, thinking of tip 2 is having a good schedule, maybe just their duty, but I know with both of our personality, we put a lot of thought and energy into creating a good school schedule, but then also just thinking about the routine overall of our homes. And where Mason writes in volume 1 that the mother who takes pains to endow her children with good habits secures herself smooth and easy days. And I feel like that having the routines for our children, but for ourselves as well, sets us up to be able to accomplish so much in a day that otherwise we can just be kind of bogged down by the details and go from one, chore to the next. So yes, we have these big, busy households and a lot on our plate. And so the schedule, it helps us to really make sure that we are able to enjoy the whole feast of a Mason education. There's so many different parts to it that schedule seems to be critical. So we've been doing this for a while. What did you do this term with your schedule? Do you look at it each term and make changes?
I always do a big look through before the year begins, and I have a lot of puzzle pieces to fit together with all the different ages. But one change that I made this year, we have been doing math at like 6:45 in the morning for years. And it worked really well for us because my littles, that's a time, like they come downstairs kind of sleepyhead and they're kind of in a calmer mood usually and grab their books and, sit on the sofa and read a little bit. And so it gives me time to work independently, individually with my kind of middle-aged kids on their math. And so I would always kind of do them back to back. I have 3 right now that I'm like actively teaching math with. And last year, I really tried to make my schedule fit what we had been doing for a long time because it had worked so well in the past. But after the retreat, and you were talking about this metaphor of thinking about the rhythm of the home and sort of what kind of tone you wanted throughout the day. And I was thinking about my youngest, who does not wake up as a sleepyhead. He wakes up really ready to go. And it kind of felt like all year I had been putting math in that slot, even though he was kind of climbing all over us during that time. So I felt like I finally was able to let that go, switch math to nap time when he is happily sleeping. It's been a much more restful set of lessons for me and for them. I feel like even they're making more quicker progress through their lessons. And I think it's partly because my attention is now solely devoted to them during that time. So that was a change that I made that I felt like was directly from sort of thinking through the tone of our home after the retreat.
And it's easy, I think a lot of us want to think through our schedule for our school day, but to stop and think of ourselves, mothers as persons, and what do we want our life to look like? And do we have time to pray, to think, to plan, to exercise? And if atmosphere is something that emanates from us, right, and this key to our children's education, we won't be able to serve from a place of love and joy and enthusiasm if we haven't thought that through. So also we included in the CMEC Retreat packet, this handbook we created, all of the mother's routines and how we, the different things that it takes for our lives and what we want to accomplish and where we fit them in our day. So I feel like each semester, and if it's winter here and then it's not as easy to exercise first thing in the morning and it's dark, we always need to stop and tweak it, which really leads into our third tip, doesn't it? And we have these perfect schedules we've worked out. We think that we've really reflected on our goals, on who our children are now. And so we need tip number 3, though, to have the right expectations for the year.
Yeah, I know, for example, about myself, that in the first couple weeks of school, I use a lot more energy going through our lessons and our day than I do at any other time of the school year. And that is partly that I'm talking a lot more than I normally do. You know, I have to, all the routines are new and the books are new. And so kind of having that introductory time with the children, and reminding them what parts of the day we're on and to check their schedule. And some of these habits have to be kind of like reworked a little bit after the summer break. And so by the end of the day, I am really, really talked out. And so knowing that helps me to scale back on other things in my life during those first couple weeks. So we didn't start any outside lessons until just last week. So we had like 3 weeks of just school, just lessons, and it really helped me to have those recovery periods in the evenings. And that goes back to the rhythm of the day as well. Of if I know that I'm going to have, you know, a high energy time during the day, I need to plan that I'm going to have a lower energy time during the evening. I know that that's what I need to sort of recover and really come to each day fresh. Whereas in another life, I might, knowing my personality, just try to power through and start everything all at once and jump in and really get burned out like very quickly into the new school year. So.
Yes, and I think if we try to think in terms of the whole year and realizing that there are, for all of us, these different times of highs and lows and busier times with holidays. And so then we can adjust our schedule and be realistic about what we can accomplish. And we know that these things are this way year after year. And so if we can plan for that. And so we too try to start those first few weeks with all, you know, I try not to take on other commitments, have things in the evening, and I know that we'll be able to, you know, ramp up. And so I feel sometimes like if I'm going to bed early, like a little depressed of like, all I do is homeschool all day. But to know, whoa, this is it is tiring. And I told a friend recently, Celeste Cruz told me she's even tired the first week of school. And they were like, oh, okay, good. So
it's good to know that my fellow type A people are tired too.
Right. And so we know that about ourselves and we can plan accordingly, then, you know, it can be messy and hard every day, but we can still find delight in them. And so one of the last, I thought we could end with a quote from one of my favorite parent review articles, and I think we can link it in the description box below, and it's in the CMEC, the Thinking Love Handbook too, but it says to hold fast to the vast importance of family life and the great issues that fall from it. Remember that your fitness for guiding and ruling it depends greatly on your maintaining in yourself the principle of growth and progress in your own life. Upon reasonable management of details and fair proportion of real rest, and believe that the calm peace and cheerful brightness which it is your special work to cultivate cannot be maintained in any other way. And is it not worth some effort, some careful thought to preserve the brightness and joys of home? And so these are our 3 tips. We know that there are many ways to try to maintain that brightness and joy of home, that we can have peace and cheerfulness in our work. So we'd love to hear what would be any other things that you think are important at the start of a school year to do. Share in the comments below, and then don't forget to subscribe so that you will be notified for when our next video comes out. So that's all for now from Charlotte Mason, Coast to Coast. We wish you a home of calm peace and cheerful brightness.